Links employee handbook, tools and equipment, patch kits, yada yada yada. Don't heal physical wounds.
Good morning, Shipbreaker. Your allocated shift time will be commencing shortly.
Thank you. Alright, that was a $1.5 million day yesterday. I'm going to have a look and see if I can decode that. Yeah. So it must be that if I don't decode it immediately after getting it, or, you know, before turning off the game, it must go away. So. Oh, links internal. Let's have a look. 2 links HR, links operation leads, links employee number, yada yada yada. Eduardo Matthew Faris. RE employee termination. Attention, effective immediately, employee Mikey Murphy of Operations Division is no longer an employee of Lynx Corporation due to insubordination, corporate dissension, and misuse of company funds. The search for his replacement is already in motion. Carry on. Eduardo Matthew Faris. HR Director, Human Resources, Earth Village, Links. Not much to that, I guess. I'm sure that there's something else that might give that some context later. Who knows? Maybe. Can I upgrade this now? Do I have enough points? How many points do I have? No, I'm still short by, like, 33 points. Damn. You're below 80. I'm going to give you a repair. I'm so tired of my thrusters breaking. And let's get back into it. Continue salvage.
Morning, folks. How y'all holding up? Yeah, I had a question. What? Can you hear me? I can't hear you, Kato.
Kai, try switching to another frequency and then back again.
How about now? Can you hear me now? I hear you. Hey, okay. I have a question. What's this administrator gonna do?
They're beat counters. Waste our time with productivity reports.
They've come here before?
Sure, loads of times. Profits drop, they send someone. Accidents go up, they send someone. Sometimes they just send someone to find out if they need to send someone.
They ain't a big deal, Kai.
You heard right, Paulson. I guess they're just snooping around for union stuff, right?
Yeah, gonna be here a week tops. These types have the attention span of a gopher. They'll move on pretty quick.
What's a gopher?
What? Boy, you better come visit sometime on Mars when you're done here.
One day we'll all go see them gophers and whatnot. Keep that front of mind and don't fret none. Carry on now. Weaver out.
Secured. Credits deposited.
Alright, so the administrator is still not here. Not sure how important or meaningful that is, but it is what it is.
Valuable object
Oh
processed.
shit, come back.
Credits deposited.
Don't leave me. Alright, and
Salvage deposit accepted. Credits transferred.
what's up with these guys? These guys seem like they're moving a bit slower than they did last time. But maybe I'm just more impatient.
Object accepted for processing. Credits deposited.
Okay, I'm gonna salvage goal 2.
Salvage gains. Rewards increasing.
It's hard to know what to do with these. I don't want to use a tether. I feel like a tether is not worth the expense, you know?
Valuable object processed. Credits awarded.
Something else I noticed while I was editing my videos from the last recording is that I get a little bit quiet and I mumble. Sort of towards the end of it, I think I was just a bit tired of recording and running out of voice or whatever. Alright, and get rid of... Oh, edit tethers, right. Think. Something else I noticed while I was editing my videos from the last recording is that I get a little bit quiet and I mumble. Sort of towards the end of it, I think I was just a bit tired of recording and running out of voice or whatever.
Salvage secured.
What do you want to
Credit
do?
applied.
Oh, interesting. I don't think I've seen one of those before. Alright, and I'm going to want to strip this out, aren't I? Now, I learned a new term, a Shipbreaker term, and I forget what the term actually is. But it was on the Shipbreaker Twitter account. It's kind of a cool thing that they do. I'll talk about it a little bit more later, but that the developers sort of ask the community who plays the game, like, oh, what are the terms you use for various shipbreaking techniques? And try to... I don't know that they use them in the narrative or anything like that, but that they acknowledge them at least in some of the external, the outside, the game type media. Oops. Uh-oh. Did I screw this up? I might have, I don't know. Let's see what happens when I do this. Okay, where'd that go? Alright, but anyways, there's a technique that the name of it, I forget the name of it, what the word was, but basically is to maybe cut off the back of this somehow, and then just pull all the casing of the cockpit away from the... What's that shadow? Oh shit! That's new. I guess that's the ship picking up my salvage.
Welcome to Vintage
Is that what you're beeping at me?
Oxygen level
You're
stabilizing.
beeping at me for oxygen. I was wondering what was casting that shadow. Master Jack was in shadow. Huh. I can't even remember what it was. Oh yeah, so this technique that they talked about on the on Twitter to kind of cut off the back portion of the cockpit, and so I think I'm going to try that because I've got 8 minutes to deal with it. There's not much else to do. In the study and criticism of games, at least academically, there are two main routes you can go. There's the narratologist stream, which analyzes games as a fictional text, like books or films. And then there are ludologists, who examine the rules and the structures and the goals of the gameplay. Obviously, the best move is probably to keep a foot in both camps, right? But I think it doesn't hurt to keep in mind that one could look at a game's narrative on its own, just like you could look at its structure on its own. Sifting them apart makes it clear, at least to me, that the structure is what sets games apart as a medium, which makes it the most interesting and possibly the most important, even though the narrative might be the easier part to engage with critically. Hence the name of this channel, Ludology. You can have a game with little or no narrative, and those are kind of common, especially in earlier games. But narrative without a ludic structure, like, what is that even? I'm tempted to make a Xenosaga joke, but even that's not actually an example of all narrative in no game. It's worth noting that there's this idea that's gained currency in popular gaming criticism, which is ludonarrative dissonance. It's coined by the game designer Clint Hocking. It's an interesting and an important concept, and there's a good Kotaku article actually that I'll link in the description that discusses it in some depth. It's sort of tangential to the main point that I want to explore in this voiceover, but worth being aware of. Instead, I want to draw on a really great paper by this guy Marcus Schulzke that I'm basically obsessed with, and it's titled The Critical Power of Virtual Dystopias. Schulzke, I'm not quite sure if I'm saying that right, but Schulzke argues that games are really well suited for dystopian stories. To summarize and possibly oversimplify it, the fact that a dystopian setting continues to be dystopian, despite, and maybe because of, the player's agency and activity in the world, presents an opportunity for reflection on the themes that underscore that dystopia. One of the examples he presents is Fallout New Vegas. He says, New Vegas offers a seemingly limitless range of choices at each step in the game. Nevertheless, although the game's mechanics do not force players along a single route, the game's narrative is constructed to make it clear that the player's free choices are never enough to lead them out of the dystopian world entirely. He goes on to describe how players must take sides in factional conflicts and participate in the violence in order to progress through the game, and no possible outcome is entirely good. hbomberguy also has a really great video essay on Fallout New Vegas, which for me added some context to how powerful this can be. He talks about how the subtle moral choices that confront the player, beyond the simple paragon or renegade, good or evil choices in certain other games, it lends Fallout New Vegas this continuing relevance, even more than a decade post-release. He refers to continuing debates that he's seen online about whether or not backing the new California Republic is or isn't the quote-unquote right choice.
Cutter, you got 5 minutes left in this shift. Knock out that work order before they turn the lights out on you. We were out.
So let's bring this back to Hardspace Shipbreaker. Clearly dystopian, right? The very first thing that the player does is sign an employment contract that, among other things, compels them to agree to vote for Lynx's preferred candidate in an upcoming election. The first thing that they do after onboarding is destroy the player character's body, basically kill them, in this process where they harvest their DNA for the Everwork program, a program that exists so that employees can continue to work for Lynx even after death, racking up more and more debt as they do. And the dialogue from characters in the game makes it clear that this process is not as proven or reliable as Lynx claims. That's the narrative. The ludological aspects of the game, I'm not quite sure if that's actually a proper word, but they have to do with the dismantling of ships, right? The sorting of their components, managing resources like oxygen, thruster fuel, tethers, and all that. But everything you do and don't do is weighed against this cost-benefit in terms of dollars. Every shift means more fees, and every item salvaged comes with an opportunity cost. I could pull off every dome light and salvage 100% of the value of the ship with no waste. But if that takes an extra shift, is it worth it against doing a faster, less efficient job on the next ship? The narrative and ludic structures are obviously connected, right? In that the narrative adds meaning to the structure of the gameplay. The player has no choice but to agree to the employment contract, for example. Otherwise, you can't progress in the game. So there's not really any player feedback into the narrative at all. Not so far, at least. For now, there's sort of this wall between the play and the story, which is why a lot of the discussion I've seen on the official Discord, for example, has to do with what the other characters like Lou and Dee Dee are doing. All the conversation about what the player does has a lot more to do with the ludic structure, which again, it makes sense, because that's what we have power over. That's how we can interact with this world, but those interactions are sort of walled off from everything else. Now, having said all of that, I don't know if I necessarily mean that as a criticism. I feel like, actually, the player not having a whole lot of input on what's going around them is appropriate given the story that's being told. Lynx is this massive megacorp, and you were desperate enough for a job that you agreed to work for them. It makes absolute sense that the player does not have any meaningful power to shape events on their own. But even though the player character is not exactly going to overthrow Lynx on their own, there are still ways to register dissent. And I think that's where I think the value of this narrative in this game potentially lies. There is something I'm aware of in the plot that is coming up very shortly that will have an effect on the gameplay and allow the player to sort of express that dissent. And it's not actually all that different from, say, collecting the posters or the data drives, except that it's presented as a direct move against Lynx's interests. But I have plans to probably talk about that next week. That's basically what I've got for now, though. Probably enough, to be honest. Let me know what you think of it all in the comments or on Twitter. I'd love to hear what you think about virtual dystopias and the relationship between gameplay and story, particularly as relates to Hardspace Shipbreaker, but it could be about anything else as well. And with that, I'll tune us back into gameplay in Kenmore.
Salvage deposit accepted. Credits transferred.
Nice.
Ship teardown complete. Cutter account credited.
Chair. And the rest of that. Yeah, see?
Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
All right, Cutter. Wrap it up. You got about a minute left.
Maybe I'll try that next time. It's just burning off the top and bottom there. Yeah, not bad, not bad. Call that that. Ooh, actually, you know what? I want that 20 meters per second sticker, don't I? And I got the oxygen. But if I fuck this up,
Valuable object
it's not
processed.
gonna kill me.
Credits deposited.
16 seconds left. There we go, 20 meters per second. Nice little flourish on the end of everything. Alright, another $1.5 million day. So in total, $3 million off that ship. Only destroyed, 5%. That's more than I'd like to, but alright, not bad. Let's call that it for the day.